Change you're not allowed in the church to pray the gay away. Being straight is not a ticket to heaven, people.
I can't even begin to like understand what that feels like.
All Christians saying is like, you're too far gone. To somebody to say that to you, seeing a sign that says God hates gays. People even bring up conversion therapy. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is katyy.patyy and
Courtney!
If you don't know who Courtney is, why not? Today, she's been in lots of my videos before, but if you're new here, hey, if you're back, I'm surprised you're back, but I'm glad you're back. Today, we're gonna be talking about the conversation of the LGBTQ, which is a pretty, it's a pretty conversation. It's a pretty
intense conversation.
It's a pretty intense conversation just because I know there's a lot of church hurt, there's a lot of hate, there's a lot of like bad stigma, there's a lot of just not really good.
Leave that in there because that's how I feel about it.
And so we just want to kind of open the conversation today. Courtney has a pretty close to home testimony with this, which she's going to share in a bit. But yeah, that's what today's video is going to be.
Katie kind of told me she was doing a video about it, and I thought I was the perfect person to talk to people about it because it's actually like the church and the LGBT community is, I would almost say, a passion of mine.
Good.
Like the reconciliation of the two and talking to the church about loving everybody always, all the time, and how that's what Jesus did. Because my dad is gay, if you didn't know.
Yes, and we'll be talking about that a little more to begin with, as she's going to share testimony. Before we get into that conversation, don't forget to go like and subscribe to this channel for more. Turn on that bell notification so you never miss a video.
Ding, ding.
Also go follow my Instagram and TikTok at katyy.patyy with 2 eyes on each side. Join the journey, join the katyy fam. We want you here, we love you, and we love to talk about the things that the church doesn't really talk about. So today that conversation is going to be about the LGBTQ community. So let's just get right into it. First, to begin with, Courtney is going to share a little bit of her testimony in regards to the LGBTQ community. As she just previously mentioned, her dad is gay, so she's going to talk about it.
It's not something that I've personally struggled with, but it is obviously very close to home for me, so I don't claim to understand everything about it, but I do try to educate myself on it as much as I possibly can, because obviously it's really close to home. So my dad is gay. The first question that I always get is, are you adopted? No. So my parents got together and they were married for like 10 years and then they got divorced, and I didn't know that's why they got divorced. I was about 13, and then when I was about 15 my dad came out and was like, I'm gay, and I'm like, okay, so this is all coming together. And I was in like grade 11 and I went to a Christian school and was surrounded by a Christian community, and so the only thing I knew growing up, this is like 10 years ago, so the only thing I knew was gay is bad. If you're gay,
end of discussion.
Yeah, like if you're gay, you're going to hell. Because now things are even more progressive. Like the church never talked about it. It's just like, you're gay, you're going to hell. I didn't know gay people, really. There was no gay people. Like I didn't really know anyone except maybe celebrities or like people on YouTube that were gay.
That kind of reminds me of like the conversation of like even purity culture and sex is like the church is really good at being like, oh, sex is bad, don't do it, end of discussion. Or like things like that. Like it's just like a drop mic and then end of discussion without talking about the Bible actually says, what Jesus actually said. Even if like with sex, yes it is a sin, just if you leave it at, oh, sex is sin, bang, bye, like then what the heck?
It left kind of a big question mark in my life, so I had to figure it out, right? And I got some things right and I got some things super wrong. Like for example, I thought that my dad's personality was going to completely change. That's not how it works. Thought he was going to turn into, I was 15, right? But I thought he was going to turn into like the gay people the only gay people I knew, which were from like Glee on TV, like the stereotypes. And so my dad's like, so I'm still your dad. I'm not changing at all. I'm the exact same person I was before. You just know I like men now. And I was really scared to tell people. Like in high school, I didn't really tell anyone. I told a couple of my best friends. I don't know what I thought. Like I thought that people would judge me. I cried a lot. And then as I moved into ministry, I was like 17, 18, 19, and I thought, can't have a gay dad and go into ministry. Well, obviously that's from the devil. Anyone can go into ministry, and things don't happen by accident. Like nothing happens by accident. And so it really has opened doors for me to talk to people about it, because as soon as you start talking about it, you're a little bit vulnerable. Like I just say, oh, my dad's gay. All these people that I had no connection to before, they're like, oh, I have a parent that's gay, or actually I struggle with same-sex attraction. Oh, like my brother's gay, that kind of thing. And so they feel more comfortable talking to me about it. And so it's really created like an open door.
So a question that I get quite frequently is how to properly love the LGBTQ community as a Christian. And I've said this and I will stand by it, I will stick with it, is your goal when you're evangelizing, when you're becoming friends, when you're whatever, when your goal with evangelizing and being friends with the members of the LGBTQ community is not to turn them straight, it's to turn them to Jesus. It's to direct them to Jesus. It's to show a little light of Jesus, to be more Christ-like, to love them. Like, your goal should never, ever, ever be to change someone, whether they're a part of the LGBT community or not. Like, when you're evangelizing to someone who's having sex before marriage, your goal is not to stop them from having sex before marriage. Your goal is to turn them to Jesus. And so I think when you come at it at that approach of that, like, you're not doing the changing. That's not your job, and that's not your right at all to change someone like that. All you have to do is love them. And I honestly, it makes me so mad. It makes me so frustrated when people treat members of the LGBT community more as a sinner than anybody else. Because they're not. Whether you're gay or straight, we're all sinners. Like, every single one of us. Their sexuality is not tipping scale of why they're a sinner.
Yeah, and people like to act like it's so bad, but it's also a sexual sin. Well, just like sex before marriage is a sexual sin, but I think people think, oh, it's so much worse.
One time I was with this girl and she was joking about having a gay best friend, and she was like, oh, I would never have a gay best friend and be a Christian. It actually made me so freaking upset. It made me so mad, because I was like, what's the difference of you being friends with somebody who's having sex before marriage? What's the difference of you being friends with somebody who's an unbeliever? Like, we're all sinners. So it made me super, super frustrated that they think their sin is less than somebody who is a part of the LGBTQ community. And like, yes, the people closest to you should be like Christian community and have support. Like, we have that conversation, but also, like, that doesn't mean neglect people who are unbelievers or the LGBTQ community. Love them like you would anybody else. Treat them like you would anybody else. Don't ostracize them because they identify as gay, straight, trans, whatever.
I get asked quite a bit, oh, are you still friends with your dad? Like, oh, how is that? How are family gatherings and stuff? My parents are my best friends still to this day. My dad is my best friend. And people ask me, oh, does he, because I go to Bible college, right? Oh, does he support me? And he really does. And I got lucky in that not everyone's parents support them in what they're doing. But because my dad has seen, whether he knows to call it this or not, he's seen fruit in my life, the church be positive in my life, and he knows that's always been a part of my life. But I'm open. Like, I'm open to be like, hey dad, what do you think about this? He believes in God, but he's not a Christian. He wouldn't call himself a Christian, I don't think. And they're like, oh, do you pray for him? Of course I pray for my dad. I pray for my whole family. What has been my job, which has been so incredible, my dad's been with the same man since he came out, like, for 10 years. And so he's family now. And I lived with him. And at first it was weird. Like, it was definitely weird because I wasn't used to it. It was a new thing. I didn't know what to think. I was like, God, what are you doing here? What's going on here? But this man had a really negative view of the church. He was married to a woman previously, and he had grown up kind of religious, and he had just been shunned by the church. And so he had a really negative view. And so he would say to me, oh, you crazy church people. Like, he would say it as a joke, but he did think it. Oh, you crazy church people. Oh, I know how you guys think. And I would say, whoa, 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 that's them. But I don't think like that. And as my friends would come over that were Christian, I would just plant little things, and God would give me opportunities to plant little things like, hey, it's not all like that. We're not all like that. And now, 10 years later, he doesn't say that anymore. He's like, I know that not all Christians are like that. I know that you're different. That's beautiful, because I can see how God is using this weird circumstance in my life, this unexpected circumstance, to change how he views the church and how he views God. And I think that's really beautiful. So that is our job, is to love them.
And I also think it's important to remember that there is a lot of church hurt behind LGBTQ communities. Like, if you think about maybe your grandparents' generation, like, there used to be God hates gays, like, signs. I see those pictures all the freaking time in that generation, and I would say it's gotten less vocal about that, like, God hates the gays, but that's not biblical. That's not true. That's not how you should be approaching people, the LGBTQ community. That generation caused a lot of hurt that us as the new generation has to rebuild. Even our professor at school, he was talking about how he has lesbian neighbors and he invites them over for dinner. He walks their dog. He house sits them. His job, he's not trying to change them. He's not trying to turn them straight. Like, he's loving them and, like, rebuilding that hurt that took place.
Yeah, and I think that's our job, is to spend the rest of our life fighting against what has come before us. Yeah. It is too bad that we have to do that, but just, it's worth it to see these people. People have said before, oh, would you let gay people, like someone that's openly gay, or there's someone that's openly trans, oh, would you let them in? What? Yeah! Jesus never said, oh, get away from me. He said, come to me. Oh, they're living in sin. Whatever you think about that.
Yeah, so is half the people in the church building.
Yeah, and who needs Jesus more than us that are living in sin?
I 100% agree with that. It's like, you should never turn away someone because of their sexuality, because their race, their gender, their anything from the church. Because that's, like, the church is for broken people. Who's to say me, who went to church for, like, a couple years, living in sin, absolutely going to church plastered out of my mind, you would have never known that. But just because they're open about that doesn't mean that they deserve to be shunned from the church, or that they should be, like, left out of the church. Oh, it makes me actually super mad.
I know, it's like
It makes me so mad.
It's like my passion, especially because we as people crave community. Obviously, there's an LGBTQ community and it is strong, and it's stronger than it's been. Like, it's the strongest it's ever been, and people who are older are like, where is this coming from? Well, obviously, you pushed them away so hard. The church said get out, everyone said get out, so they made their own community. And that's why people think, oh, they like segregate themselves. Why are they so proud about what they do? Well, that was their only community for a long time.
Well, we also need to recognize as believers are called to a different standard than unbelievers. Like, yes, sin is sin. I'm not saying that it's a different standard if a Christian sins or if an unbeliever sins. But what I'm saying is them changing a sin in their life, yet not accepting Jesus as their Lord and Savior and having faith and having a relationship with him means nothing. For example, if you are an unbeliever and you're gay and then you turn straight, but you don't have faith in Jesus, that doesn't mean you're going to heaven. Like, that doesn't mean that you get a ticket to heaven because you're straight. Like, being straight is not a ticket to heaven, people. What we have to remember is they need the gospel. They need to have faith in Jesus. That's all that we as Christians should be preaching, not coming at them with their sin and throwing that in their face. Turn them to Jesus. Jesus is the one who convicts. He's the one who converts. He's the one who has the relationship with them. So leave it up to Jesus. Like, don't try to be Jesus because you're not Jesus. For example, like, if you knew a friend that was having sex before marriage, you wouldn't go up to them and be like, stop having sex before marriage or you're going to hell.
They're gonna be like, oh wow, thank you so much.
Like,
I'm
that's
cured.
That's not your job, and I hope you've never done that. If you've done that, there's grace for you. But like, please change your ways.
People who do that think they're doing the Lord's work, which is so sad, and God really be up there like, oh, like close, but not raw.
You missed the mark.
You missed the mark, baby.
Coming at it, you would evangelize to anybody, being like, hey, this is what a relationship with Jesus looks like. Hey, do you want to come to church with me? Say your friend is crying over a boy or something like that, being like, hey, can I pray for you?
Also, they should see the gospel from you before they hear it. Every time.
Unbelievers and believers are called to a different standard because one has a relationship with Jesus and one doesn't. One have conviction and one doesn't. And so how you would approach both stances is completely different. In this video, we're talking about unbelievers. Like, we're talking about how you would evangelize to unbelievers, how you would talk to an unbeliever and have a relationship with them.
Like, when in doubt, if you don't know, let God.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, I don't know how to talk to this person about Jesus. Oh, I don't know how to talk to this person about, like, if they're Christian and they're gay, like, I don't know how to, let God.
No! And what the heck? Conversion therapy? Can we just talk about that?
Okay, that actually breaks my heart.
That makes me so mad. That should never be a thing because our job as Christians is not to change people. Like, that's not our job. And the fact that that's even a thing is absolutely disgusting.
Well, it'll never work.
I was talking to this girl who she used to stay at my house because she had school in the city and stuff, and she was talking about when she came out to her parents, who are very strong Catholic, they sent her to a priest to pray the gay away. And she says she has so much church hurt from that. And I'm like, that's because people
no kidding.
are trying to play God.
Can you imagine? I don't know, like, these people that have turned away from God because of that. Like, if that was my impression of the church, I wouldn't blame them. The message that was sent to that person was change or get out of my face.
Like, change or you're not allowed in the church. Like, what the frick?
Change or you're not allowed. Change or you have no place in this world, basically, is what I'm hearing.
So, like, conversion therapy, pray the gay away, like, trying to turn them
so
straight,
sad.
that's completely disgusting.
Can I just say that if you're watching this video and you felt ostracized because of your sexuality, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. And I'm gonna spend the rest of my life telling people how sorry I am about that.
It actually makes me, like, so sad.
I know, I'm gonna start crying. Because, like, I can't even begin to, like, understand what that feels like.
And just the fact that Jesus, like, says, like, you're never too far gone. And being a member of the LGBTQ community, all Christians saying is, like, you're too far gone. Like, that's absolutely disgusting.
And, like, imagine if someone would have said that to us where we were.
Yeah, like,
right?
imagine if somebody was like, oh yeah, Katie, you're too far gone. Like, God doesn't want you. Yeah, I would have thought that. Like, and we all think that. All of us thinks that at some point in life. But just to somebody to say that to you, imagine being, like, a member of the LGBTQ community and seeing a sign that says God hates gays.
Yeah. Horrific.
It's just, as Christians, like, we're called to love everyone, and that's not loving them at all. And if you think that's love, like, that's not.
Well, the argument I always hear is, as if you love your kids, you'll discipline them, but that's not what that is.
And you know who's the father? It's God.
It's not us. It's the truth in love. Speak the truth, but speak the truth in love. There's no love there. It's so like the devil to hate Christians with good intentions, because those people, they don't know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Like, if they knew, they wouldn't. Like how Jesus said on the cross, forgive them, Father, they don't know what they're doing. It's so like the devil to create division like that and make them think I'm doing it in the name of Jesus.
So, like we were kind of saying, is like, if you are part of the LGBTQ community and like you're a Christian struggling with that, or like even you're an unbeliever, like just watching this is like, I'm so sorry for what the church has done. It's actually disgusting, like when you look at generations of it, and even just conversations in day to day. Like, I'm just really sorry. And I think what we want you to take from this video is that you are loved and that you're welcome at the church, and that a couple Christians doesn't define who God is. Because so many times we can look at like Christians and be like, oh, I don't want to follow your God because of who you are. That's a totally fair argument, is like when you look at Christians and we freaking suck sometimes. But just like know that like Jesus is nothing like Christians, because he's good and he's perfect and he's kind.
And we can't understand why those people did what they did and said what they said to you, and we can't even understand what that feels like. Well, story doesn't cut it, and we know that.
But that's why we want to open this conversation a bit. You should talk about it.
It might be controversial for some people, but it's worth it. I'll spend the rest of my life talking about this stuff.
She'll be in the comments arguing if you need her.
No, I won't be arguing like that, but if you ever want to chat, especially to someone that, you know, watched my dad go through what he did firsthand, I'm so down to chat.
Any final words?
I love you.
I love you. We love you, and we hope you stay here.
Come chat with us if you need to.
DM her, because I probably won't see it, but she will.
They already know. They'll be like, hey, I DM this to Katie, but, and I'll be like, alright.
Okay guys, so that was the video. We love you, and we hope this helped kind of open up the conversation a bit more. We probably will do another video about this and talking about more questions that you guys have, but today we just wanted a little basis video of her testimony and just how to love people and just kind of have that conversation. So we love you, we're praying for you, and any last words, buddy?
Yeah, well, if you have any questions, like if we do another video on this, leave them down below, because I don't know, I think the church shuts down a lot of questions, and I think we should encourage it, even from a Christian perspective. If you're like, oh,
because this was more unbelievers, but for like Christian questions, leave them down below. Yeah,
how does this work? How do we love people in the church like that? I think it's really good to wrestle with those things.
And wrestle with them. Like, it's not an easy stance, but okay, well, we love you guys. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.